Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, piracetam, modafinil, Nupep, uridine monophosphate. I mean, phenylpiracetam, forget it. You can always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Episode number 90 of the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast. I'm your host and nootropics information divulger, Ryan Michael Ballo. I'm like the WDIY. I'm like the freaking NPR guy. We're going to talk about nootropics today. We're going to talk about some racetams and maybe throw in some armodafinil in there and just talk about the benefits. I think it's quite good. Coming up on the 3 p.m. hour on Nootropics 101. All right, everybody. So I'd like to talk about stacking racetams because this comes up often enough. And it's weird because I see people that can't tolerate multiple racetams at a time because it's just too much of this choline affecting activity going on in the brain. And some people just need a very, very bit, just a bump above baseline in acetylcholine functioning. And then I see some people who are just man, for whatever reason, it's probably because of taking other pharmaceutical drugs. It could just be their brain makeup and chemistry where they do best on a variety of racetam nootropic compounds. We're talking about oxiracetam, aniracetam, coliracetam, phenylpiracetam together, or separately piracetam, aniracetam, oxiracetam together. And the doses on this stuff that I'm seeing a lot of people, I'm seeing kind of patterned, which is really cool because we do a consulting service on nootropics, so we get to see what do people respond to. And the patterns are interesting and the doses are interesting, so I'm going to get to that in just a sec. Real quick, to get it out of the way, the specials we're running on product, we've got a stack. It's called Cortex. That's our nootropic stack. Exceptionally strong. I mean, it's one of the competitors to Alpha Brain and Siltep. It's out there, right? It's been out there for almost 3 years now. Folks love the Cortex stack. We get so many recurrent buys, so many recurrent customers. People just love it. It's if you want to take a couple capsules and turn your brain on, buy the Cortex nootropic stack. Buy it at livecortex.com. It comes in a super sleek black bottle. The capsules look awesome. It's just awesome. Get Cortex at livecortex.com. If you use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, you can get it for $28 right now. If you need my help personally, we have a consulting service on nootropics. Basically, we can help you get out of brain fog or figure out stacks that work for you. Get that at livecortex.com. And if you're new to nootropics, buy Smarter, Better, Faster. That's our book that we wrote on nootropics that explains really how to use them surgically and gives you many of my favorite stacks, shows you how to cycle. Buy that book and all that stuff at livecortex.com. And by the way, for those of you that have gut issues like SIBO, GERD, and LPR, we can help you fix that. We got a consulting service on that. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Okay, so let me just start by talking about kind of my racetam usage. I use racetams when I need to process better. That's it. It's if I'm sitting down to do QuickBooks, I'm accepting transactions and trying to categorize outgoing money and ingoing money for my business, then I use racetams, and it's just so much easier to do that kind of work when that's happening. If there's a whole bunch of if it's just a complex processing task that I have to do, racetams are absolutely my go-to. I really wouldn't want to take a Drafinil or anything very stimulating that works on dopamine or wakefulness for that. Although it works to a degree, I'm awake anyway. I drink coffee, I sleep well. So long as nothing's going on and whatever, I don't get a crappy night's sleep. And racetams really serve a great purpose for processing intensive stuff that's going on. I love all of the racetams except for nepharacetam. Don't take that in canines. It damages their kidneys. So not that that's applicable to humans, just not something you want to really fuss with because there's so many other racetams and you can experiment with them all and get good results. There's piracetam, oxiracetam, aniracetam, phenylpiracetam, faciracetam, coliracetam. These are the best racetams to take. They're just awesome. And then there's pramiracetam too, which is a study racetam. Out of the major racetams, my favorites are regular piracetam, phenylpiracetam, oxiracetam, and aniracetam. Now, it's hard to say because faciracetam is a very kind of calm, focus-inducing, GABA-modulating, acetylcholine modulating racetam, so that's kind of cool too by itself. I kind of just like taking it by itself, 20 milligrams, and then you're done. but those other racetams are my favorite. But here's what I've come to find. And by the way, my dosage, just in case like anyone's like clear, like, well, how does Ryan dose racetams? I tend to lower dose aniracetam and oxiracetam. We're talking about 400 to 500 milligrams of each of them, and that really does it for me. Sometimes, I mean, even a couple hundred milligrams of aniracetam, and I'll be good for like 2 hours. I'll feel good, memory be optimized. I don't need a whole lot. I've been taking these cholinergic compounds for nearly 10 years, so like I've done a lot of work on my brain, I think in a positive direction, so it's like I need less of the stuff. But if I'm taking some bigger stacks and some more complex stacks that I really need to be on beast mode for, then certainly I'll take a gram of oxiracetam. Like if I didn't sleep well and I'm just in a crappy state, mentally, in terms of performance and fluidity, it's like you get sludge in the brain when you don't sleep well, right? Oxiracetam fixes it in 30 minutes, and it lasts for 2-3 hours, so it's really, really awesome in that regard. But what I've come to learn in watching people, take racetams is that there's this, subset of people, and a pretty large subset of people who they don't really respond all that well to individual racetams. I mean, they do. It's just they need a little more. It's not enough for them. Where they're taking 4 grams piracetam, a gram of aniracetam, 500 milligrams oxiracetam, 150 milligrams alpha GPC, and that's their stack. I mean, I know a dude who works for a construction company, and that's what he does. Like, he's a roofer, and he does a lot of the intricate, complex building when these guys go and build stuff, fix roofs, build houses, all that kind of crap. And for him to get into the technical details, he takes basically a multiple racetam stack, and it works really well for him. So that's kind of one of the stacks that I've seen in the dose quantities that seems pretty consistent. There's some other people too. There's a particular example that I'm drawing upon that stack coliracetam with phenylpiracetam and oxiracetam in these doses. It's 30 milligrams coliracetam, 200 milligrams phenylpiracetam, and 500 milligrams of oxiracetam. Now that is like an insane kind of stack. That's going to super optimize memory, but it's going to give you stimulation that's like second to none. A very powerful, pretty long-lasting stimulation. That phenylpiracetam is strong, and then a lot of folks don't know this, but it's so simple. If you just stack phenylpiracetam with oxiracetam, you get double the stimulant effect, and it lasts a long time. It lasts a little longer than 3-4 hours, which is what they normally last. All effects considered, even after they taper to an extent. So that's kind of one interesting example. The other thing that I see people doing, which is really cool, that I've tried myself, which really works, is a simple piracetam fasiracetam combination. So you got piracetam, which is going to optimize verbal fluency, memory, kind of give you a degree of energy, certainly some brain fluidity. It just all around kind of improves the brain in a variety of ways. And then you have fasiracetam, which works on cholinergic signaling in the brain, so it's acetylcholine kind of centric, but it also upregulates GABA receptors, I believe GABA B receptors. So you allow the brain to send the GABA signal a lot easier when fasiracetam is doing its work, because it happens acutely, which is really cool. So what you get out of that is it's cool because that's not a very stimulating racetam stack. It's just piracetam and fasiracetam. You don't have oxiracetam or aniracetam or phenylpiracetam, which are stimulants, right? Not exclusively, but a lot. They're stimulants. You just have regular subtle piracetam, which is really cool and awesome, like 2 to 4 gram quantities. And then you got fasiracetam, which slows things down a little bit and helps you focus. Like if people ask, look, I've tried a bunch of stuff, and I really, my brain seems to work really quickly, a little too quick sometimes. I'd really like something to kind of slow down but not take away from my functional capacity. Like if you take 2 grams of ashwagandha, you'll slow down, but it'll take away from your functional capacity. You won't be able to get work done. Then I suggest taking that stack, 4 grams piracetam, 20 to 30 milligrams fasiracetam, a small choline source, 100 milligrams alpha GPC or CDP choline, or perhaps 300 milligrams of choline bitartrate, and you're in. Lastly, I'd say this. There are a couple people for whom stacking 5 racetams works well for them. A stack would look something like 500 milligrams oxiracetam, 400 milligrams aniracetam, 30 milligrams coliracetam, 5 grams piracetam, and a big bit of choline source, because you're going to be optimizing the cholinergic system so much. You're going to need some acetylcholine for that, just kind of need to get it in there. Those people tend to be, what we would call power users. These are power user stacks, and those are significant. I mean, they really give you a strong stimulatory functional effect. And the stuff works awesome. It's not going to be good for everybody. Some people, those like super high doses or combining so many racetams in pretty high doses is going to be a little overstimulating, make you feel weird, maybe even give you some brain fog, unfortunately. But for some people that need it, I mean, like, that's a super stack, and a lot of people take it. And gauging whether or not you're going to respond on the lower end of a couple racetams in medium doses or on the higher end of like 5 racetams in regular or high doses is really going to depend on your experimentation, so you can figure out what works best for you, okay? So that's my take on stacking racetams. I mean, I just dumped a bunch of information. Listen to this podcast twice if you need to. For me, it's so on the top of my mind because I'm always thinking about it. I'm always dealing with it. I have so much experience on it. But I hope that that's been useful, and I think the stacks that I laid out in this podcast are going to be useful for a large degree of people too. You always want to remember, look, I mean, if you're looking to get some experience with multiple racetams, the first thing you want to do is you want to medium to low dose everything. 400 milligrams aniracetam, 400 milligrams oxiracetam, 10 milligrams coliracetam, a choline source, and see where you're at. And then and only then, once you get a good response and you feel like you can get more, do you titrate the stuff or move the doses up, in small quantities to find a really good ending state from the stack. Okay, so I hope that's been useful. Thanks so much for listening. Ryan at livecortex.com. If you have any questions about nootropics, it gives us stuff to talk about on air. The Cortex stack, again, $28 right now. If you use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, get you a bottle of the Cortex Nootropics stack for $28. It's being called the only pre-made stack that works, and that was the intention. We didn't want people to take it and be like, oh, this is subtle, or oh, I'm not sure if I noticed it, or maybe it's placebo. We wanted people to take 2 capsules of Cortex and be like, holy crap, my brain is totally in, and I'm wired in and turned on. Okay, so get a bottle of Cortex at livecortex.com. Remember, look, I am a wellspring of information on nootropics. I can help people in any regard relating to brain performance and nootropics, especially. So if you need help, we've got a consulting service at livecortex.com. It's a 40-minute call with me. Get it there. We'll reach out to you shortly after you get the consulting service to set up a time. Normally we do Skype calls, but sometimes we do phone calls. It's super, super helpful. And then lastly, again, remember, if you're new to nootropics, you got to buy Smarter, Better, Faster. I mean, it's the book that teaches you everything. It gives you many stacks, gives you some of my favorite stacks, shows you how to cycle, talks about tranquility nootropics, phenibut, everything else you can think of, all the affinils. It's just a powerful, informative digital book on nootropics. Get that at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Thanks for being with me. Rock on. Talk to you next time.